Hello everyone, and welcome back to the video. I'm the Last Wanderer, and once again, we're back in the same demo lab as the Instant Death Button for me to show off another new contraption. And like I was in that video, I'm wearing some insanely enchanted netherite armor, and the reason I'm wearing it is for what I'll show next, and that just so happens to be my new trap behind this door, which is my 3x3 sync note block door. And I promise you, it's not just me promoting another video, this is actually relevant. I'll tell you later why. But let's just walk down this hallway, and then you'll see something. As you just saw, that netherite helmet I was wearing was instantly broken. So what kind of trap can instantly break the netherite helmet? Well, this one can actually. This trap, while fairly simple to make, is a tad bit different than other traps, since it's a multi-stage trap. I'll explain what that means in a second, but how it works, when this redstone line here is triggered, these anvils fall into this bubble column. There, they increase their fall distance, which increases the damage they can do to the player and helmets. After a certain amount of time, a player will walk in here, the anvils will fall on them, and it'll break their helmet. As simple as that. Before I get too far, I just wanted to point out that I do know pointed dripstone was added in the 1.17 snapshot, and it can be used to make stalactites, which when falling will damage the player and do something similar to what I'm showing with anvils. But this video was conceptualized and I started recording it before dripstone was introduced. Also, here's just a little secret. By putting this netherite helmet and let an anvil fall on me, this is how much damage it takes. Now if I do the same thing with pointed dripstone from the same height, this is how much damage that does. As you can see, the anvil clearly does more damage. And I've repeated this test multiple times. The anvil almost always comes out on top. Now I do also know you can add more dripstone to a stalactite to make it do more damage, but you can also do the same thing with anvil. Just make sure you have a button or some other non-full block at the bottom to break them when they fall. So, now back to the helmet breaker trap. The reason this is a multi-stage trap is that this redstone line needs to be activated a few seconds before that tripwire does. And the reason it needs to do that is because these anvils here need some time to build up fall distance in the bubble column. If you don't give the anvils enough time to build up fall distance in the bubble column before the tripwire is activated, well, the trap's just going to fail. See, it didn't even break the helmet. You can counteract this problem though by adding in more anvils. This trap can support up to 10 anvils before the anvils fall so fast that they hit the soul sand and break. Though there is a secondary problem, and that's the second stage of this trap is slightly slower if you rely too heavily on a lot of anvils. But yeah, it'll get the job done. If you really do care about the speed of the second stage of the trap, you can shorten the bubble column to just 2 water source blocks if you're only using 3 to 5 anvils, 3 being the lowest number of anvils you can use to reasonably break a netherite helmet. The reason this is a multi-stage trap, and we don't just keep the anvils in the bubble column, is because anvils will actually break in a bubble column after about a minute. That shouldn't affect this trap too much, however, because the anvils only need about 20 seconds in the bubble column to build up enough fall distance to break a netherite helmet. You could of course decrease this time by adding 2 more anvils. The remaining time is of course for your target to walk through the second stage of the trap, activating the anvils and breaking their helmet, like this. Some things you might not like about this trap are the fact that the tripwire is very easily seen, but that's of course because I'm using a quartz background for demonstrational purposes, and also the soul sand and fence gate are visible. In the second version of the trap, I fixed both of those problems. As you can see, the tripwire is up 1 block, so it's harder to see, and I used the slime block to hide both the fence gate and the soul sand, and this trap works the same as the other one. And then after a certain amount of time, you just activate them, and they fall. Let me now just explain some of the remaining features of this trap, like this tripwire, which activates 2 sets of sticky pistons, so the player can't easily escape. As you can see, this redstone line instantly activates this first set of sticky pistons, and the second set of sticky pistons has 4 redstone ticks of delay, because, as you can see, without that delay, you just get pushed off. Not very trap-like, but from the other side, it works perfectly. And also, I can't jump out of this trap, which is because I have a honey block hidden below. That prevents the player from jumping out, so they're pretty much guaranteed to be hit by the anvils. One thing to note is the honey block only works with slabs or carpets, along with any other block smaller than a half slab. One other thing is that this trap resets itself in most ways. As you can see, once I leave this tripwire, the soul sand is placed back in place, so the only thing to do is put the anvils back where they were. In regards to the activation of the first stage of the trap, you don't just have to use a button. You can also use a pressure plate, or tripwire, or even a barrel being detected by an observer of all things. I even showed at the start of this video how the redstone from a 3x3 piston door can be used to activate the first stage of this trap. And it doesn't matter how many times this redstone line turns on, because it uses an RS NOR latch. For the second stage of the trap, you need to be really precise and make sure you trap the player in this one specific block here. Otherwise, the anvils won't hit them and their helmet won't be broken. Now I do this using a tripwire, a honey block, and some pistons. But there are of course some other ways you could do this. Alright, I'll quickly show a tutorial of how to make this trap, but I do have one more interesting thing to show at the end. I decided to choose this design, the seamless design, since it's a tad bit harder to make. But just keep in mind the fact that this trap is very customizable. There are many different ways you can make it. You don't even have to use tripwire. You can expand the room, you can expand the height, etc. But I can't show a tutorial for every single possible design, so I'll just be doing it on this one. For this tutorial, I'm going to start out with a floor of slabs. Then, over here, for your trap, you want some sticky pistons facing up, honey block, and then some more sticky pistons. Cover that all with slabs. Then for your tripwire, you want it to be in the same row of blocks as the honey block. And I'll just move it back here to hide it a bit. And same for the other side. Then add in your tripwire and your string. Next, you have to decide which side your target's going to walk through the trap. For this demonstration, I'll be doing it from this way. So, what I'll do next is add in the redstone here. I need some target blocks here, and some target blocks there. And just add in some blocks. This is where the repeater will be going. And then this will be for some dust, like this. Put this repeater on 4 ticks of delay. Some dust here. And then up underneath the tripwire. And just cover this with slabs. Next up, I'll add in the redstone for the anvil dropper. So some dust here, block, dust. And then you need 2 slabs in a zigzag like this. And then some more dust. Put some pistons here and here. 2 fence gates, make sure to open them. Slime block. Soul sand. And now you can put in the bubble column. If you only want 3 to 5 anvils, 2 is enough. But if you want up to 10, you're going to have to add in an extra block. And just fill that with water. Put a piston here. Oh, and this has to be a solid block. In order to push the soul sand and slime block back, you need 2 pistons here. 2 blocks. Another piston. Torch. Block. A sticky piston. With an observer. And 2 redstone dust. And the last thing to do is to power this piston using an RS NOR latch. So just place a block, comparator, and 2 droppers facing into each other. And put an item in the dropper on the top. And to reset the RS NOR latch, you just need an observer and a block. And to activate it in the first place, you need a block here block here, and then whatever redstone contraption you have to power this will do. I explained all that before. Just cover up the trap now. Like this. You're now free to add in your anvils and test it. And it worked. Finally, it's time for me to show what I meant when I said that there was one more interesting thing you could do with this trap, and that's behind the door. This time, when I walk into the tripwire, I won't just have to deal with my helmet being broken. This time, there's something more waiting for me, and I have no way out. That's right, a curse of binding pumpkin. What could be worse than that? You're not limited to just the pumpkin, though. That's all I've got for this video, though. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out some of my previous videos, including my last 2 feature reviews on sculk sensors and pointed dripstone, and make sure to come back for my next video. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.